Welcome to Main Street Podcast, an opportunity to talk to Idaho's elected leaders about the issues that matter to you. Hello and welcome. It is Main Street Podcast, and we're here with Representative Rod Furniss. Rod, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Can I call you Rod? I feel like we're friends.
Yeah, Rod.
You look like a representative, but to me, you'll always be just Rod.
No, just Rod.
All right.
Rod.
District 31. Why don't you walk the listeners through what portion of the state you are responsible for?
Yeah, it was 35, which included Butte County. We swapped Butte County for Lemhi County, and I represent Jefferson, Fremont, and Clark counties. And I got to tell you, it's been a wonderful drive to Salmon. We've probably gone there, 15 times since the session's been out. And we've gotten to know the people in Salmon. The leaders there are incredible. And the community has some real needs there that we need to address. So we're thankful to be able to go there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I want to start today with a topic that I know you'll be interested in, sports. Okay. So we were talking before about, most people may not know, not only did you play football at Rick's, you had an offer to play basketball, so a star out of high school, but you've also spent a lot of years, 15 years coaching boys and girls basketball. Yeah. You're currently, competing in the Senior Olympics and medaled there. What was it at a young age that got your heart so set on sports?
I don't know. That's a good question. I had great friends that were athletic, and I beat them in a race a couple of times. I thought, I can compete. And we had a great basketball team. I played quarterback on the football team, but our basketball team, we took state 2 years in a row when I was a junior and senior. And it gave you enough confidence and fortitude to think you could get through some hard times. And those were difficult championships, but we got through them. And then played football at Rick's, enjoyed it a lot. Just played 1 year. The second year I came back, I decided I thought I'd get married to a wonderful woman. And we now have 5 children, 11 grandchildren. We love that. The sports have been a big part of my life. I've been able to coach my children in 8th grade, 9th grade, sophomore year, and varsity. I've coached some varsity basketball, coached some football. So just a wonderful time. Great time to spend with children when you can do that.
Sure. Well, and it's good that sports has helped you get through tough times, because as an avid BYU fan, which we won't hold against you, you've needed that.
Yeah, I have. Especially this year.
Right.
So
why don't you tell us how playing or coaching sports is similar to serving in elected office?
That's a great comparison, because you have to convince boys and girls that they're better than they are, and that they can go out and they can do what you expect them to do. And you have to persuade them to do that. And so the fact that I'm also an insurance salesman and I persuade people every day to look at their risks in life has helped me in the legislature be able to speak and compromise with legislators to get bills passed. And that's been a great help for me in the legislature to be able to do that. I'm sure sports had a big background. I'm competitive that way. But to be able to teach and to persuade is a great asset in the legislature.
Let's jump to your business. So you are a businessman. You've operated an insurance organization. You've got a lot of training, a lot of education in that. Well, you didn't have a whole lot of spare time. You're raising a family, got grandkids. What was it that prompted you to enter the political arena?
Well, that's a great question. And back to my business, I'm a first generation graduate from a 4-year college at ISU.
Oh, wow.
And that got me into the banking industry, which moved into the insurance industry. And I was able to be successful there, working with large companies with their life insurance and health insurance. What moved me was that there are many laws that I thought were inequitable in my health insurance field. And so trying to understand that, I moved into the PCO arena, where moved up the ranks there real quick. And then they asked me to run for a seat that was an incumbent seat. And that was a little scary. And I really didn't know what I was getting into, honestly. And I doubt anyone that runs for office really knows what they're getting into until they get there. But it's been a real life changer for me. I've always been a service-oriented individual. And so when I'm asked to do something, I do it. And when they asked me to run, I was happy to try. I Didn't know if I'd win, but I did. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to serve in the Idaho legislature. It is a privilege to be there. And every day when I walk into the Capitol and I see the lights on the Capitol, it's a surreal moment for me to know that I'm there helping Idahoans.
Yeah. What do you enjoy about serving?
I really like to see things fair and equitable. I like to see people succeed. And in my business, the more people succeed, the better I do in my business.
Okay.
And so if I can encourage them or help them succeed, that's a great motivator for me. And then to see laws that assist people succeed, that's incredible too. And then, frankly, in the last 4 years, 6 years really, that I've been in the legislature, we reduced regulations on business. I've been the vice chair of the business committee.
Yeah.
And we have reduced more regulations over those years than any other state. And we're the least regulated state of the nation right now because of that. And I love being a part of that.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about that committee. As vice chair on that committee, what are the big issues? You mentioned regulation, and shout out to Governor Little for what he's done to cut the red tape.
Every agency that we heard from in the business committee, I'm no longer on the business committee, but when I was there, every agency said that the governor has prompted them to reduce pages and pages of red tape. And they came in and thousands of pages were deleted in regulations in the statutes in the state of Idaho.
So translate that to the average, person that owns a business in Jefferson County. What does that mean to them when you guys are cutting these regulations?
Well, what it means is really we can cut red tape. There's already a tremendous amount of red tape when you start a business. You have FICA insurance, you have, workers' comp, you have all the regulations that are there. And for us to streamline those regulations or make it easier, more user-friendly in those regulations, and by cutting some of those regulations, those businesses can thrive and be more successful and spend less time doing those things that are non-productive and do things more productive. And that's the goal of the business committee.
I think we've all been in a situation where we've had to say, like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? And somebody says, well, we have to. And so it's nice to get rid of some of those we have to's when we don't really have to.
And those are some of the deep dives we did in the business committee. Do we really need this regulation? Do we really have to have them do that? I know that hairdressers were going through a hard time. We reduced regulations there. I know that electricians were having a hard time. We reduced regulations there. And so in order to make more blue-collar workers more productive, and that's frankly what we need in Idaho currently is we need more tradesmen. And so we've really concentrated on making those individuals more productive in the state of Idaho.
Let's talk about policies that help foster business in Idaho. What are some of the things that you see and that you can do that will enhance the ability of Idaho to be competitive?
Well, Idaho's pretty competitive now. We've gone from we're 41st, if you will, in property tax, where we've gone to money that we spend on teachers from being the bottom of the nation to the top of the nation. We're doing a lot of things right for individuals in Idaho. Businesses are seeing thriving in Idaho, currently suffering because we can't find enough workers.
Yeah.
And especially in the trades. And so the launch program that the governor's put forth has really changed the momentum there and will in the future change that momentum. The launch program only passed by one vote, but it's going to change the nature of Idaho. It's going to help those students that maybe didn't think they could go on to college be able to do that, or those that were going to college are going to be able to finish quicker. And I think it will direct more people into the trades, the plumbers, the electricians, nurses, the things we really need in Idaho, HVAC, welders. We're just so short on those that this launch program is really going to move that forward. You'll see businesses thrive in the next few years because of those programs.
If it's going to be such a win, and we do hear so much about the good that it's going to do, what happened in the Capitol that made it such a close, like nail-biting one-vote victory?
Yeah, I think it was really, there's some real influences in the Capitol that people really watch scores, if you will, or whatnot. But I really think that they thought that this was a giveaway. And at the end of the day, when you look at the money we spend on four-year colleges and four-year degrees, we subsidize those degrees by tens of thousands of dollars. So to spend $8,000 on a trade was a drop in the bucket compared to what we spend on a 4-year college. And I don't think that message got out that well. And so a lot of the individuals were confused. But at the end of the day, it did pass. And it went through the Senate. The governor signed it. And we're seeing huge changes right now. I was able to teach the Hispanic Affairs course at ISU. I think they had 400 Spanish kids come to ISU. They attended a 3-hour class with me. I probably taught 100 kids about the launch program. I went through and I asked those kids, every one of them, I said, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? And we would look up on the launch list and see if that was there. And it was. Most of those trades or that they wanted to do, some of them wanted to be orthopedic surgeons, right? But the basic 2-year program was there for them to start that. And they didn't know that it was there for them. And to see their eyes glitter and their faces warm up and their smiles come across their face, that gave them hope to be able to enter into those trades. That was impressive.
So yeah, it's opening up opportunities that these kids wouldn't have had.
I don't know that for sure, but I could tell on their faces that it eased their burden.
Sure. Okay. Now, when voters go to the polls, why is it so important that they look to vote for candidates that are pro-business? We can talk about why it's important to vote for those that are conservative, that are pro-life. Why is pro-business something that should also be on their checklist?
Well, we have ranchers and farmers, and they know business, and we have almost everyone in the legislature understands business. And so I think we have a pretty good cross-section there already, but it's really important that they've signed the front of the check and the back of the check, and so that they've seen both sides of the issue. And when they've seen that, they're able to look at those laws differently. When you've signed the front of the check, you look at all the problems and things that come through on a business nature. And it's important to understand that and to have had that experience, to have to meet payroll, to have to borrow money to make money. We wrestle with those things in the legislature every day. Should we have more FTPs in order to get a better service and a better outcome? And sometimes even the government has to invest to get a better outcome or to get a return on investment. And it's important that people understand that.
So speaking of government investment, you also serve on Energy Environment Technology Committee. That deals a lot with issues related to Idaho National Lab, which it's been a big investment by the federal government to put that research facility out in the desert. You've got to spend quite a bit of time out there. What has impressed you about that facility?
It's amazing. I serve as the vice chair currently of the Energy and Technology Committee. And with that title, I'm able to go out there quite a bit and to see the production that happens and the quality of people that live there and work there is impressive to me. I think they have more degrees than anywhere in the nation that work there. And so the quality of the people are tremendous. What they do there for our national security, for innovation, is the best in the nation. And to have those in Idaho and to be able to see that growth there is impressive. But it's such a boon to Eastern Idaho. And we look at the growth there and the money that they bring to Eastern Idaho, to the car dealerships, to the housing market, it just trickles down. And so the economy just does better with the site. And the leadership there has been tremendous. They've been warm and friendly, and they've opened up, and they want us to understand their business so that we can work together. And we have. It's been a tremendous thing. Even though they're in Idaho, they're federally funded, Idaho regulates the site. And so we look at their oversight. They come in and present to us. They tell us what they're doing, what their goals are and their aspirations, and we work with them on that.
A lot of Idahoans that don't necessarily live in Eastern Idaho, or many who do, but are more my generation, struggle to see the value there of, well, number one, what is it that they're doing? And number two, why should I care? So to those that don't see the importance of that investment, what would you say to them?
Well, just look at the small nuclear reactors that they're building. Someday will fit on the back of a semi and supply power to a Salt Lake City. Just that type of technology, the battery technology that's coming. Our future is so much brighter with what they do at the site than without them. And even though we don't know what they do, we ask them what they do. They can't tell us, or they have to kill us, right? But so we really don't understand what they do a lot of times, but I've toured those facilities. I've seen their work. Good things are going to come out of there, and it's going to enhance the young lives. When you grow up, because of the site, your life will be better.
You're assuming I'm going to grow up, but I refuse. You know me. You've known me long.
I said when you grow up.
if I grow up. Rod, let's talk about some of the things you've been able to accomplish, because you rocked up to the State House your very first term and got to work. And actually, where a lot of freshmen may not be immediately running legislation, you did. So from then until now, what are some of the metaphorical legislative trophies that you have in your case where you can say, I'm proud of that I was able to help accomplish this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I probably passed 60 bills since I've been in the legislature, which is a tremendous. If you know how to pass a bill, to be able to take a bill into committee, to take it to the floor of the House, to take it to the committee in the Senate, to get a senator to present it, to get the governor to sign it, it's a tremendous lift just on one bill. So it's important to have that history behind us. But some of the things that I'm most proud of are we got a lot of uninsured motorists off the road my very first year. They'd been working on that bill for 10 years. I was able to get that through and get that done.
So walk us through that a little bit. What does that look like?
What that looked like is that we had no way of tracking uninsured motorists until they got a ticket. And so a lot of people were going uninsured. We had many people contact us and say, I just got hit by an uninsured motorist, and they just drove off and there was no penalty. Nothing could be done. So we tightened that up a little bit, and now we do what's called a VIN matching, where if an uninsured motorist, if a guy buys a car and that VIN shows up in ITD, we also have insurance companies telling us what VIN numbers they've insured. We match those up, and we can see any uninsured motorist that's out there. So we send them a letter, and we say, we know you're uninsured. And if you don't get insurance within 90 days, you may lose your registration. And it will cost you about $350 to get that back.
Which is so much nicer than getting rear-ended and being in a situation where they simply say, well, I don't have insurance. I can't pay for that.
Right.
What do you do?
So it's a state law that you must have insurance. So this was just an enforcement piece that we put together. And we've seen tickets go from 1,000 tickets a month to 500 tickets a month. So we know that people are getting insurance.
That's great.
Probably the other biggest one, and I've done tons of them, affordable housing, but the other one was the teacher insurance bill that we put together that allowed teachers to be able to go on, or allowed school districts to be able to go on the state employee plan. But also we allowed school districts, we gave them more money that if they didn't want to go on the plan, they could buy individual insurance. We left that autonomy there. And they were able to supply, or able to supplement those teachers' insurance policies enough that many teachers called me and said, this is the first time in 10 years my children aren't on Medicaid.
Wow.
Or my husband's not on Medicaid. And each teacher probably had a family, saved almost, $500 to $900 a month in premium. So we were able to give a teacher a raise. That's the best money spent on teacher raises because that's pre-tax.
Yeah.
And so to be able to do that on a pre-tax basis was important. That's what the governor hooked onto. Without his help and support, that bill wouldn't have gone through. And we put all the numbers together for him. That's what I do in my private life, is I do health insurance for large companies. The state plan is the best run plan I've ever seen. I've reviewed hundreds of plans, and that's the cheapest plan that I've seen. So they run that plan really well. We'll see more and more schools jump on. And this year we were able to extend the deadline out a couple more years, so the schools had more time to make that decision.
When you got to wonder how many teachers and the type of teachers that are coming to Idaho because of that, or staying in Idaho, good teachers that we didn't lose to other states because they had an offer. And some of the school districts, particularly ones in your district, they don't have a plethora of teachers that they can choose from. Sometimes it's tight to employ.
It's interesting, though. I've called the school districts that have gone onto the state employee plan, and they tell me they're fully staffed.
It's working.
Where other districts are not fully staffed. We were able, over the last 3 years, though, we were able to give teachers about a $500 a month raise every year. Wow. So teachers from 4 years ago are making about $1,500 more a month than they were previously. We've gone from 40th in the nation to 10th in the nation. And it just came out and said that Idaho has the best rate of return on the money we spend for the grades we get.
Wow. When I was in high school, the teachers were really sour about what they were getting paid. And of course, when they were giving me my poor marks, I thought they were overpaid. But
Yeah.
looking back, it was crazy that we were able to hire teachers at that salary.
Those teachers, and it is true today too, but teachers teach because they love children. And they'll do it with money or without money. But when you do it with money, they stay.
Yeah.
It costs about, we did an analysis. ISU actually did it for me. Excuse me. We spend about $13,000 to train a new teacher. And we were having almost 30% turnover in our teacher pool.
Wow.
Before we raised the wages. Now we're seeing less teachers leave. We're spending less on retention, and we're able to put that money back into health insurance and wage.
Perfect.
That's a business concept
Yeah.
that we have to go through, right?
Yeah. You're running the government a little bit at the speed of business, as they'd say. Let's talk about things that you haven't quite been able to go over the finish line yet. Last session, the period project came up. This is a novel idea and one that you've been kind of the face of. Walk us through what this looks like in Idaho.
Well, I appreciate the question because this concept originated in Jefferson County.
Really?
By a lady. She's a wonderful individual. Her heart's in the right place. She saw girls having what she called period poverty, where they would go to school, not have enough money to buy their supplies. The family didn't have enough money to buy the supplies, so they were having issues. So she put together a volunteer group that made packets for schools and would deliver those packets to all the schools. I think there's currently 29 schools that she's trying to get packets to.
Great.
So currently, but because of volunteerism, that comes and goes.
Yeah.
It's not stable. We had people testify in committee in the House of girls that would raise their hand, teacher wouldn't let them out of class because they didn't understand that they were having their period, right? And we had girls that would have to go ask the male teacher for period products because they didn't have them that day or they forgot them or they couldn't afford them. They would have to go to the principal's office and ask for period products. We have toilet paper in our well, if you had to go ask for toilet paper every time you had to go to the bathroom, you'd have a problem. Well, girls have one more need. And so we hope to be able to bring that back. It sounds like it's a common thing. It passed unanimously in the Utah legislature. There was a 1 no vote in Utah on this exact same bill. So I was surprised that happened. I really thought that it would pass.
What's the opposition?
It was a $400,000 spend for dispensers, a $300,000 ongoing for period supplies, which is a 0.00 nothing in the education budget. But the spend was thought of spending money needlessly, I guess.
So it was initially a $700,000 and then $300,000 after that in perpetuity to take care of these.
And so the girls don't have an embarrassing moment. And every girl you talk to has had an embarrassing moment in their life with this. But a lot of the girls really, truly are being able to afford it even today.
Well, I think about how uncomfortable it is for like you and I to talk about menstruation and female hygiene. And as uncomfortable as this conversation might be, as we kind of talk about periods that we're not used to, compare that to what it might feel like as a young girl, a teenage girl, to go and try to have that conversation to, a teacher. That's,
yeah.
So it's coming back. You're going to take another swipe at it. What do you think will change this next go around?
That's really the question. Will it come back? We haven't decided that yet. We've got to find one more vote. And so when we get one more vote, it'll come back.
Well, we'll start putting the screws on the no votes then.
There you go.
Get them around. You're very active in terms of, you mentioned traveling to Salmon over a dozen times. I would put a plug in for anyone that wants to know what you're doing. Your Facebook is very active, all the meetings you're going to and everywhere you're running around. As you go out and talk to so many voters and stakeholders, whether it's state or federal agencies, business owners, what are they telling you is some of their biggest concerns right now?
Well, it depends on the area. Salmon's biggest concern is opening up the forests and the mines so those people can go back to work and that town can flourish. That used to be a flourishing mining town, a flourishing forest town. We currently have a mill in Salmon that's getting their trees from Montana. and they look in their backyard and there's a whole forest right behind them. So some of those issues like that are very cumbersome and more federal, but important. And I'm working with our federal partners to try to help them with that. Clark County, on the other hand, has so few people there, and they're dwindling, and their schools dwindling. We're going to have to come up with some kind of a formula for schools that has a minimum, so that Clark County can continue to have a school there and continue to have a county there. We're going to need to help them with that. Fremont County has lots of issues up in Island Park. We're working on right now. I'm working on bills to try to help them put an auditorium district in if they want, or a local option tax. Right now, the bill says on an auditorium district that if you have to have 3,000 votes to get to terminate it. Well, Island Park doesn't have 3,000 votes in their district, so I'm going to help lower that down. So if they ever want to change their mind, they can. They can look at it that again if they want. And they have other issues. We're looking at ITD issues. That some people want a Super 2 highway there. Some people want a 4-lane highway. Yeah. As legislators, we've decided to help with the process. We want to make sure the ITD process is pristine and that the NEPA process goes through, even though I hate it, and everything is done according to book. And then when they make their decision, that'll be their decision. The legislators don't make that decision, but we certainly want to make sure the process is correct. And then in Jefferson County, where they're growing like crazy, we have speed limit changes, we have road changes that we need to do, and we're helping the commissioners with those.
Oh, fantastic. So there's some questions that we love to ask all our guests that come on. And hopefully you're teed up for some of these because they're the tough ones of the day. So the first question I asked, we talked to Representative Raymond about this one recently. As somebody who loves the country, studies history, keeps up on current events, I'd ask, when you look back on history, who are some political leaders that you really look up to and think these are the type of people I would like to emulate?
Well, Ronald Reagan had a big influence in my life, and his Reaganomics was what we studied when I took economics in college. I have a degree in finance, and I have an advanced degree in insurance, but economics was so important. And supply side economics, where we cut taxes and we allow businesses to thrive, that's what needs to happen. And we've done that in Idaho. We've cut taxes 3 years in a row in Idaho. We've gone from a higher percentage to a lower percentage. We've done $192 million in property tax relief this year. We have cut taxes and balanced the budget. I'm a member of JFAC. We do all the budgets. There's 118 budgets that we look at every single year. And I just admire the crafters of the Idaho Constitution that allow us to have a balanced budget. And we keep that promise in Idaho. We balance the budget. This year, we projected to have $250 million in cash at the end of the year. We had $460 million, I think, in cash. We balanced the budget. We added cash to our reserves. We have all of our cash reserves as high as they can be in the state of Idaho. We're still refunding money, and you may see another refund this year. And if you're a member of the Idaho, someone that lives in Idaho, you received a check from the Idaho legislature for $300 or $600, depending on, or more, depending on what your income was. But we've done that, and that's a concept of Reagan, right? To lower taxes, lower regulation, let businesses do business, and we'll make more money. If we lower tax, they'll make more money and pay more tax, right? So that's the concept we love.
Yeah, novel idea. And comparing that to what happens with fiscal policy in Washington, D.C. is just such a stark difference in what we're doing in the Gem State.
And you would know that, you've been there. But here, when I go to national conventions, I'm a member of the National Association of Insurance Legislators.
Oh, okay.
And we go there and we talk about all the national legislation that's coming through. But everyone comes up to me and says, we just don't understand how you do budgets in Idaho. How do you get people together and balance those budgets on every single agency? And we say we have a joint finance committee where we look at those, we dive deep into those budgets, we ask the hard questions. Do you really need that car? Do you really need that extra employee? Do you need that snowplow? We ask those tough questions, and we keep our budgets where they should be, and we keep our cash reserves where they should be, and we make sure we don't go over that.
So speaking of JFAC, are you finding that some of the most challenging but also fulfilling the work you're doing?
Just this past session, allocated budgets out. I'm on the Medicaid side because I understand that insurance and Medicaid portion. I used to sell Medicare insurance supplements, but that's going to be a tough budget. They've had some audit issues this year. And yet, even though they've messed up on their audit, people still need the services. And so we're going to have to look at that and make that budget balance. And we're going to have to make sure the services continue. And we have more people coming on. However, this year, because of the Biden administration, they would not let us take anyone off of the Medicaid rolls. So our Medicaid rolls ballooned, and we had like 130,000 people on Medicaid. But once the pandemic was over, and we were able to take those people off, we're now seeing people convert to individual policies. In fact, Idaho leads the nation in converting people from Medicaid to individual policies, almost a 30% conversion.
Wow.
And we're giving talks all over the nation now on how we're doing that and how we coordinated that. And so we're doing a good job of getting people off of the Medicaid rolls, which will reduce our costs. And then we're seeing the ARPA money that came from the government during the pandemic. It was like a pig in a python. Okay, it was going through the budget system.
Yeah.
We're seeing that finally come out, and we'll be able to manage that better and see true up our budgets better.
See where we're at.
Yeah.
Next question. A book that you've read in your life that you think you'd recommend people read.
Well, about the only thing I read are bills and the Book of Mormon right now. But
man, we gotta give you some more fun reads.
Yeah, I need some more. I always read sales books. Really the scriptures for me are where it's at.
Yeah, it's changed it. Love that. A restaurant in your vast district that you think if anyone's driving through District 31, they definitely need to stop at to eat.
Oh man, I love them all. If you're in Island Park, you want to do the Mexican restaurant,
Cafe Sabor.
Cafe Sabor. Yeah. If you're in Salmon, you want to stop at the Amish.
I hear they've got good fried pies.
Oh my goodness. And their vanilla peaches, really good. And then, of course, if you're in Island Park, you want to go to the Trout Hunter, and have a hamburger.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some great recommendations. So, Representative, we started today talking about sports, talked about, what you've done and how you raised your kids through it and how it relates to the legislature. We got into a lot of the other things that you've done in your personal life with your business and how that's helped you as you went to the legislature and helped the governor cut regulation, what we've done to help businesses and the business community. We went through a lot of the different things that you've accomplished in your relatively short political career, and getting uninsured drivers off the road to getting teachers on helping them be insured. Your role with the INL, supporting that. As we've gone through all of these things today, as we wrap up, I want you to think about what kind of legacy you want Representative Rod Furniss to leave, what you hope when you're gone, when I'm gone, people remember you by.
That's a hard question for me because I would rather see those policies and remembered rather than me. Legislators come and go. But the policies we leave behind are what's important and how they affect people's lives. We want to keep people off the road that aren't insured. We want teachers to continue to teach. I'm okay if they don't remember Rod Furniss, but I want them to know that Idaho had an interest in teachers. We have an interest in business. We have an interest in the site. And if I can change the trajectory from bad to good, I'm okay if they don't remember me. I want them to remember the policy.
Fantastic. I think that's wonderful words to leave us with. If anyone out there is trying to get a hold of you to tell you they're happy or hating you, what's the best way for your voters and kind of Idahoans in general to share their opinions with you?
Well, they're welcome to call me. I have my number at the Capitol is forwarded to my cell phone. My cell phone, if you pull up Rod Furniss, you will see my number, my address. You can write me a letter. You can email me. You can call me. I'll call you back. So happy to serve that way. And it is important, to be kind. It's not that we don't have to agree, but we don't have to be disagreeable.
Sure.
And I actually like to hear both sides of every story. So I'm happy to hear your problem. I'm probably working on 20 bills that people have called and said, this is an unfair thing, or this needs to be fixed. And they see me as someone that can get legislation, water to the end of the row. We have legislators that have been there for 4 years that have never passed a bill. We have legislators that serve in committees that won't bring a budget and that's their job. Okay. So, I would encourage your listeners to vet those candidates that can get the water to the end of the row and can do common sense legislation. Common sense legislation to me is legislation that passed the House, passed the Senate, and the governor signed it. If it goes through all those steps, it's probably pretty good for Idaho.
Fantastic. Rod Furniss, District 31, effective legislator, unfortunately a BYU fan.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right. Thanks for joining us today, Rod. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.